Gilgo Beach, New York. It's a beautiful, peaceful place where families bring their children to play every summer. But what they didn't know was a serial killer had been secretly dumping bodies along the rugged shoreline for decades. His secret had been safe for years, but in December of 2010, things would change. Human remains were found. First one body, and then parts of another, all of them in various states of decomposition. When investigators pulled out of the area, they had found a total of 11 victims in Gilgo Beach. Sandra Castilla, last seen November 20th, 1993. Karen Vergata, last seen February 14th, 1996. Partial remains were found on June 28th, 1997. The investigators named her Peaches based on a tattoo. Valerie Mack was last seen the summer of 2000. Jessica Taylor was last seen July 21st of 2003. Maureen Barnard Baines, last seen July 9th, 2007. Melissa Bartholomew, last seen July 12th, 2009. Megan Waterman, last seen June 6th, 2010. Amber Lynn Castillo, last seen September 2nd, 2010. Remains of a toddler were found on April 4th, 2011. They named the remains Baby Doe. After DNA testing, they found that this was the child of Peaches. Also found were the remains of an Asian male. 13 years would pass after these bodies were found, and no justice came. But after the corruption was cleaned out of the local police department, a new task force was formed. A suspect's name emerged within 6 weeks. Did this man kill all of these people? Did he kill more? As of this date, Rex Heuermann has been charged with murder of 7 of the victims. Will the charges continue? Will we find more bodies? We will have to wait and see. This episode is brought to you by Chaos Rules in Madhouse, Madison County, Missouri. This rural community should be a safe place, but it hides a dark secret. Fredericktown is one of the most dangerous places to live in America. With a crime rate of 31 per 1,000 residents, Fredericktown has one of the highest crime rates compared to all communities of all sizes. I started researching one case sent to me by a desperate grandmother that led me to 15 more. Then I realized this county has had murder, corruption, and chaos since before the Wild West days. This book will start with a lynching by a Fredericktown mob in 1844 and will end up in an explosion. Hold on to your seats when you read this one. You're in for a wild, chaotic ride through rural Missouri. Check out my new book, Madhouse, Madison County, today.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Chasing Justice on True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Sonova Cantrell. I have 2 co-hosts and fellow research assistants on the line with me. I have Cricket Andrews. How are you?
I'm good. Hello, everybody.
I also have Miss T. How are you?
I'm good.
We are going to be talking to you about the Gilgo Beach serial. We're going to be talking to you tonight about the serial killer that has left remains along Gilgo Beach. Some people call him the Long Island serial killer. Some people call him the Gilgo Beach serial killer. But either way, he has been charged with 7 of these murders now. Of course, everything we say at this point is allegedly, because until he is found guilty in a court of law, it is technically still innocent. However, all of the information is piling up. We will talk about the evidence that was taken out of this man's house, the mountains of evidence, and then we'll leave it to you to decide what you think, and then we will follow the case through to its conclusion. So we're talking about a series of murders that happened from the early 1990s all the way through 2011. Now, there may be more after 2011, but as of 2011, that's when they stopped finding bodies along the Gilgo Beach. Now, this is what we're going to start with. We're going to start talking about this young lady. This young lady is named Shannon Gilbert. Now, Shannon Gilbert is still contested on whether she is actually part of this or not, but her case is what is going to get the law enforcement and the media and get this whole case started. Now, this happened in, let me check my date here, May 2nd of 2010. Shannon Gilbert makes a frantic phone call to 911. Now, she is in a specific industry that puts her in danger, and she had felt like she was being chased, and she felt like she was going to be killed. Now, she calls in a panic to 911. Well, the 911 operator can't figure out where she's at. Shannon Gilbert runs to a neighbor and pounds on the door, and then runs off and says, "This person's chasing me." Now, in the frantic 911 call, you can hear her run, you can hear her scream, you can tell her no, you can hear her scream, "No, please don't, leave me alone." You can hear all these drastic things, and then you don't hear anything else. It just, the line goes dead, and you don't hear what happens. Well, in the meantime, the neighbor is calling saying Shannon Gilbert is running down the road naked, screaming for her life, and there was a big man chasing her down the road. So we have, this is what starts this snowball, and this is what starts this case. Now, eventually, the law enforcement are going to try to say that she just fell into the marsh and drowned, and that her case is an accident. I'm not sure on that one, and we will discuss that. But just to get the ball rolling, we will pass on and we'll go to the next thing. You will find that that police go out to the area, they cannot find her. So this starts a search. And on December 11th, you will find that bodies are going to start popping up along Gilgo Beach. Now, they follow a line right along the shoreline. Now, you need to realize that there's some beautiful beachfront where the sandy beaches like what we think of, and you can see you see the shoreline where everyone plays, but then there's a lot of rocky places, and there's a lot of underbrush and briar patches and marsh grass and all kinds of stuff along some other areas. And you will find that all of these remains were found approximately 50 feet off the road. Now, you're going to go and they're going to start finding remains. They're going to start finding skeletal remains. They're going to find partial remains, and they're going to continue digging. And by the time they leave the area researching, they are going to have found 11 different victims. So by 2011, they have found 11 different victims. Now, you will see those victims' faces. We just played them throughout the intro video. And you will find that some of them are named and some of them are not. There is still a young mother and her toddler child, which isn't named, and an Asian man dressed in women's clothes who has not been named. So he may or may not have identified as transgender. So we have 2 adults and 1 child that are still unnamed as of this recording. So new information is coming in almost on the daily at this point. Sometimes it may be a week, but there's new information coming out regularly. So hopefully we will find some names to these 3 individuals, and then we can decide if they are linked to the suspect. Now, 13 full years would pass before anything was done on this case. And you'll find that the local police chief was correct. You'll find out that he was tied to these prostitutes. You'll find that he was tied to all sorts of unsavory things. So he was not interested in when the FBI came in and tried to help with the case. He did not want any assistance. He put the brakes on, and for 13 years he succeeded. Now, eventually he was overthrown and kicked out and given the boot, and then a new task force was put into place. The moment that task force was put into place, they started focusing on the Gilgo Beach cases. And within 6 weeks of them starting the task force, they had a suspect name. And then they spent a year or 14 months, somewhere between 12 to 14 months. They spent tracking this man. They They had over 300 different search warrants that they tracked all of his data movements. They tracked his, his physical movements. They researched him every which way they could. They filmed him doing everything that they thought he would be doing. And after that amount of time, on July 14th of 2023, they arrest a Manhattan architect, which by everything external, he looked like he was well-to-do and in one of the better parts of town, and he was good at his job, and his name was Rex Heuermann. Now, Rex Heuermann lived in Massapequa Park. That's hard for me to say. Massapequa Park. And he commuted to Manhattan and worked every day. Now, he was supposedly pretty successful in his job. He had some really major contracts with some major organizations, and he looked like he was a success. Now, the problem being is you will find, once you dig past that facade, you will find that there was a little bit of things that didn't quite add up about this man. Now, he did make a few people uneasy, but it was more than that. There was more to him than just making someone uneasy. He was 6.5 foot tall, huge man, not just tall, but big. And so that was intimidating. His size was extremely intimidating. And you will find that in some of these cases, a witness that actually seen him right before someone went missing, described him as an ogre. And I wouldn't want to describe a human being as that, but when we show you his face, I'll leave that up to you. Now, he is been recently charged with the 7th killing. So at first, they charged him with 3 of the killings, and then 4, and then another one, until now he's up to 7. Now, there were 11 victims along that shoreline, and he has been charged with 7 of them as of this moment. Now, he may be charged with more, and I contend he probably will be, because they brought out mountains and mountains of evidence out of his home. Now, when you dig past the facade of the successful architect, you will find that he lived in a home that his childhood home that he was raised in. So it's kind of surprising to see someone who's supposed to be this big, fabulous architect. He lived in kind of a dilapidated old house. And you could see some pictures where the porch was being held up by an extra 2 before here and there. And he's living in a neighborhood of multi-million-dollar homes. So it was kind of odd. And then you'll find, once they get in there, you're going to find mountains of things that do not add up. And so this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to go over a series of things. We're going to talk about how he was caught, the several different things that they did to track this man and make sure they had the right guy. We're going to talk about the mountains of evidence and what we think that means. I'm even going to do a screen share here in a little bit and show you the bail agreement, which he tried to get out on bail, and of course they denied him. You're going to get to see some disturbing documents and things that's in that bail agreement. We're going to also go over some of the defense tactics, what his defense attorney is trying to do. Then we're going to talk about some tag-alongs. We're going to talk about some outrageous allegations from third parties that are trying to connect themselves to this case. And then we'll discuss whether we think it's actually connected or not. And then we're going to kind of wrap it all up with what are we going to do now. So that is kind of a basic overview. Cricket, did I cover all the...
Yeah,
I think you jumping hilltop to hilltop because there's such a deep dive into everything.
Yeah.
But I keep it on the hilltops, and then we'll do deep dives into each individual victim in separate videos. But did I cover all the basics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tammy, did I miss anything?
I can't think of anything.
Okay, so as always, this video is brought to you by Bones Coffee Company. Check out my affiliate link in the video description. Every bag of coffee you buy helps me make more videos. So there's my Bones Coffee commercial for you. So okay, guys, I'm going to get a drink, and then we're gonna deep dive in. First of all, how was he caught? Now, this is something that I find disturbing, and it was all because of the corrupt police officer that was the chief of police at the time. The one of the victims had a boyfriend slash security guy, and he had been convinced by her to stay home, don't go with me, which was against her own safety protocol. This man had called her several times, a dozen or more times that afternoon, trying to convince her. He finally offers to pay her like $1,600 for the evening. She finally agrees to go and leaves her cell phone and everything at home, which is absolutely against her normal behavior. Well, this boyfriend slash security decided he didn't like this, so he stepped out and seen the man's vehicle. Now, the man's vehicle, he describes it to a T. You can tell that he's a man who knows about cars, but he basically described it. He said it was a first edition, blah, blah, blah. I can't even parrot what he says because I don't know all those things. But it was a 2002 dark colored Chevy Avalanche pickup. Okay, so but he goes into even more detail, telling you all of the car stuff, and he also said that this was a huge guy that looked like an ogre. So other than giving the guy's name and giving the guy's license plate, he gave the police a lot of information. I mean, that is a very good description.
Yes.
And yet the police didn't do anything with it. They didn't go further with it. They had a man, he was described as huge and ogre-like. He was gigantic. And he had a specific type of vehicle that was actually kind of more of an older classic vehicle at the time. And so it was an unusual vehicle, an unusual type of person in a very specific location along Gilgo Beach. So how many people could look like that and own that kind of vehicle? Can you track the phone number? All these different things that they did not do for 13 years. They did not do the basic police work. Within 6 weeks of the new task force coming on, they had Rex Heuermann. There you go. Rex Heuermann. We're just going to call him T-Rex. They had T-Rex in their sights within 6 weeks because they did the basic police work. They went back to that guy. They got his information. They found the burner phone. Now, Rex Heuermann thought that he was smart, and he thought every time he got a burner phone, they wouldn't be able to track it. Well, they still can track it. They could tell where that cell phone had pinged from. They could track and see who bought it. Now, of course, if you bought it with a fake name, they can still get a description of who purchased it at the store. And, there's all kinds of stuff they can get, even if you use a fake name and a burner phone. To make it even worse, they found that cell phone would only pinged from two different places. It pinged from the basic city block where his business was in Manhattan. So it was downtown Manhattan within a city block of where his office was, or it was at his within a city block of his is it Massapequa, of his home. Okay, so it only pinged two locations, either his job or his home. So that was suspicious. Of course, they still don't have a name, they still don't have an identity, but they have someone who's obviously, depending on the timing of their calls, it looks obviously like they work in Manhattan and they live in Massapequa Park. Okay, so they start doing the logical thing. They start searching the automotive records of people who live in Massapequa Park. And they are looking for that Avalanche. Okay, well, they find out that Rex Heuermann not only had that Avalanche, he still has that Avalanche. And that Avalanche is actually parked on one of his other properties in another state. But it's still actively registered to him. Then let's see if we can check his phone records. So they get his cell phone, and his cell phone almost every single time pings in the same location as the burner phone at the same time. So when you have a cell phone in your pocket, it's still searching. It's still looking for Wi-Fi. It's still uploading updates to YouTube and Facebook. It's still pinging your location. It's still active in your pocket, whether you're using it or not. If it's on, it's active. Okay. So they could literally tell that his cell phone was within a few feet of this burner phone nearly every single time with this one case. So this is one case. So this is kind of how they build their evidence. And then they go and get a search warrant to get this next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But that's basically how it started. What do you think about that, Timmy? How they can track the cell phones and track a burner phone like that?
Well, he thought he had all of his bases covered, didn't he? He made such a meticulous list of everything, but he didn't think about that one thing.
And we're going to talk to you here in a little bit about the evidence that's collected, because you have a list, and this list is crazy. But for someone who we'll find out is extremely, extremely organized with this, you'll find that it's pretty ignorant. Excuse me. He literally keeps all these. So when they get into his house, he still has the majority of the burner phones that he used. Now they'll find that on these burner phones, each girl he targeted, he was soliciting escorts online. Each girl he targeted, he tracked them. He tracked their family. He tracked their movements. He did everything he could to learn everything he could, but he used one burner phone for each target. Okay, so every target he'd get a new burner phone. Okay, which in itself is fairly smart. But the fact that you're still carrying your cell phone, it's still showing who you are and where you're at, and it doesn't matter how smart you are, you're going to screw up something. That's just all there is, and that's how the police catch these people. So he when eventually they dig through his house, they'll find a ton of burner phones. Cricket, do you have anything else to add about that situation before we go over into the evidence?
No, and well, what cracks me up, he's so smart, but his trophies that he's keeping is all the information to be found.
Yeah. So he's really smart, and then yet
Really
obviously
stupid.
dumb in some things.
You never write anything down, they say.
Well, and if you do, burn it.
Yeah.
Don't bury it in the walls of your house. So that leads us right into our next topic, which is the evidence. Tammy has a list of all of the astronomical amount of things that they have found in this man's house. Do you want to go ahead and read that?
Sure. 15 different types of cameras, 27 computers, 58 internal hard drives, 22 external hard drives, 46 cell phones, 9 Wi-Fi routers, 44 SD micro cards, 17 tablets, 42 USB devices, 8 laptops, 50 hotel cards, 4 GPS devices, 11 music devices, 6 SIM cards, and then 33 miscellaneous, whatever that is, and then 647 floppy disks, VHS, and miscellaneous tapes. So I'm sure we all have that much of everything in our house, right?
Floppy disks and what else? VHS tapes and
Yeah, of the floppy disk, VHS, and miscellaneous tapes came up to 647.
okay, 15 cameras. That's weird. 27 computers, 58 internal hard drives.
Yep.
And then you said 22 external hard drives.
Yep.
I have been saving all of the videos, all of the writing, everything I've done for my business for about 7 years now, all on the same freaking external hard drive. And videos and pictures take up a lot of room. and I've still only got about it half full. So what do you need with 22 external hard drives? And then, like you and I talked about before, they had 27 computers, but there was 58 internal hard drives. That means at one point in time he had 58 other computers. He had taken the guts out of 58 more computers. Now, this might be something you find normally in someone who, as a hobby, might rebuild computers or something. But this is not a person that does this as a hobby. He's not somebody that likes to build supercomputers, or somebody that repairs computers, or. So the fact that he has all these and 46 phones, 46 burner phones.
Heck, if
I
you
love
fall into
between the-
someone who has,
Sorry, go ahead.
if you run into someone who has 3 or 4 phones, they're drug dealers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that and I used to work with an ex mobster, and he said he always kept when he was. You could tell if he's doing something he's not supposed to, because in the floor of his closet was always a shoebox full of burner phones. I'm like, I don't even think he had 46, But so to me, this is just astronomical.
It makes me wonder if there's 46 victims, because didn't he get a different burner phone for every victim?
Yeah, he did. And how many phones did he actually go ahead and throw away? Now I lost track because you was reading faster than I can write. You had so many routers, and then I missed a couple things, and I got to the tablets. So what was between the routers and the tablets?
9 Wi-Fi routers, and 44 SD micro cards.
Okay.
17 tablets.
17 tablets. Okay, I got the rest. 44 SD cards. So he's got, between everything, he's got, let's see, 60, 70, 80 hard drives, besides the 27 computers he has. So he has more hard drives, but he's got 80 hard drives, hard drives outside of a computer, and 27 computers. And then he's still got 44 SD cards. How much freaking information does this man need to store? So I'm sitting here going, when you find out where they found this stuff in the house, you're going to know exactly what's on it. I'm going to see where he'll see if I can find a picture of his. What you can see how it was left afterwards, and it's I was looking for a specific picture where I don't see it real quick, so we'll just skip it. But they were literally finding these things in the walls. They were finding these things in the walls, so they cut it down to the studs. They'd find them in the walls. They find them under the floorboards. They found a ton of it in the basement. They also found they had cut away the side of the bathtub and found stuff stored between that and the bathtub. So I guarantee you all of it's legitimate. I mean, because, if you're going to hide pictures of your kids, birthday parties, you hide them in the walls. I mean, that's common behavior, right?
Yep.
And I don't know why you need 15 different kinds of cameras.
Yeah. 15 different ones?
15 different types of cameras.
Oh, yeah. 647 floppy disks. Who still has floppy disks?
Yeah.
VHS tapes and tapes. I'm sitting here going, I have a little stack. It's about this big of these little miniature DVDs. They're the little bitty miniatures that used to go in my little bitty tiny camcorder. We thought we were so cool. We had a little bitty and the little bitty. Well, those are all. There's like 6 of them, like this, a stack this big that I hang on to. I don't know how I'll ever play them, but those are my son's first steps. So I've got 6 this big, little bitty DVDs. That's all I have. I mean, I don't even have all the DVDs that I bought for movies because we stream everything. So we're talking about someone who has all these things. And then I'm going to say something that I find disturbing. Besides the sheer volume of all these things, the one thing that really disturbed me, we talked about the 46 burner phones. What else there is approximately 50 hotel cards. To me, that is disturbing, because we're talking about someone who we don't know how many people he's killed. We know he has been killing for 30 years. We know, if, and like I said, all of this is allegedly, if all of their evidence turns out to be true, he could have been killing people for over 30 years. So if he has been, do you think he's only killed 11? I doubt it. But what I find really disturbing, 50 hotel cards. This is a man who travels extensively, who owns property in 2 or 3 different states. His wife is from Scandinavia area and travels there every year with her kids every summer. So this is someone who travels a lot. Why would he only keep 50 hotel key cards? To me, that seems like a trophy. Does he have 50 victims out there? That was one of the most disturbing things I've seen in that list of evidence. What do you think of all that, Cricket? Because I think that's the first time you heard all of the things that he
Yeah, and it doesn't
had
change
in his
my
stuff.
opinion that I feel there's more out there, because he started looking for that
I do
one
too.
person, which led to all these others being found, and then Shannon was found, and they stopped searching after that. I believe there's more.
Yeah. To me, it seems like there. To me, why would someone keep the key card to a hotel if going to a hotel is part of your job and you go all the time and it's routine and it's not that big a deal?
Right.
Something happened in those 50 incidences that made it interesting to him.
Yep.
So he kept it.
Because you can't do anything with them.
No.
Those are like trophies.
Exactly. To me, that seems like, okay, he's had 50 trophies. He's had 50 trips to the hotel that he wants to remember and relive.
Yep.
So he's kept 50 key cards. So to me, that is one of the most disturbing things that we found. Of course, there are so many disturbing things that we found. Now, I'm going to do a screen share, and I'm going to show you. This man's bail agreement. It is the bail application, I guess is what you call it, the bail application. Okay. So on July 14th, 2023, defendant Rex A. Heuermann was charged by a grand jury with the following 6 counts. And this is murder in the first degree of Melissa Bartholomew, murder in the first degree of Megan Waterman, murder in the first degree of Amber Costello, murder in the second degree of Melissa Bartholomew. Now, I don't know why they're doing second degree on her, other than maybe they cannot prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he pre-planned it. But we're going to find out that he's pre-planned so many other things. I don't see why they don't go ahead and try for first degree. They're probably just going safe than sorry. So the next 2 are also second degree for Megan Waterman and Amber Costello. Okay. Now, you're going to find out that he was eventually charged with Maureen Barnard Daines as well. And then he would eventually be charged. What's her name? I didn't see it. Her name was Valerie Mack. Now, Valerie Mack is extremely disturbing. Her and one other person, Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor. There she is. Jessica Taylor. These 2 victims were in the 90s and the early 2000s, but they were partially dismembered, and their pieces, which it's hard to even say pieces, they were separated into 2 different locations. One was the Gilgo Beach site, and another really 46 miles away in a wooded area. Okay, now that's going to come important because you're going to find when we scroll down. Now this just gives evidence. This is the beachfront, and there you'll see that they're all found right here along this beachfront, right? This road, about 50 feet off the road into the brush. Now, this is where I scare myself because I started talking to Tammy, and she's like, "Well, I don't know how he would have plowed through that all of that briars and brush without it cutting up his clothes and cutting up his arms and everything, and not left a bigger trail." And I just spout off these things because I guess because I've studied so many of them. But my thought on it was what I told her today before I read this was I said, well, he would have done that. He would have just backed his truck up to the edge of the road. I said, and dropped his wheels off the edge of the road, put the tailgate down, and rolled her out, and she would have rolled the 50 feet. 50 feet's not very far. So that was just my thought on it. And then in this document, you will find that there is a witness who's seen a dark colored Chevy Avalanche, and that he saw it do that very thing, that he saw it backed up to the edge of the road. And that turned out to be a location of where, right here, on July 25th, 2003, at approximately 10:30 p.m., the witness observed a dark-colored Chevy pickup backed into the same wooded area where Miss Taylor's body would later be found. So I'm like, maybe I've read too many of these cases. Maybe I've read too many. But to me, that would be the logical explanation. I mean, how else would he get there without leaving more evidence behind, and without tearing himself up? Because he's not interested in hurting himself. By no means. So I'm
And he knows the area very, very well.
yeah, he was raised there.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the different things that they have posted in. This is a bail application. So he's trying to fight for bail, and the prosecutor saying, this is all the information we have, and we don't think he needs bail. He's too dangerous to society. So these are the victims, and this is what they have found on the bodies. They also went, we talked about phone records, we talked about all these things, but they actually have DNA to attach him to some of these cases. A male hair was found on the duct tape that bound Sandra Castilla. Now that came back. They can exclude 99.96% of North America, but they can't exclude Rex Heuermann from it. So I'm like, that's pretty close. They also found some female hairs on different victims. Those female hairs come back to be a match to his wife and his daughter. And so they think those were transference DNA, because they have evidence to show that during these times when these women went missing, the majority of them, she was actually gone to another country with her children for the summer. So she would go back to her home country and be with her family and her loved ones over there. So it was like that was playtime. Scooting on down quickly through this document, and we can make some videos to go over it a little bit more. I want to talk about this. This is dreadful. If it's not dreadful enough, here's some more. In all of those computers and crap, they found some Word documents. Now, one of these Word documents, it was entitled HK 2002-04. This is a document that he literally planned out the murders. And we're going to scroll down and we're going to look at it. Can you guys see this okay? I've got to get a drink. I'm choking to death. Hang on. Okay. Now, this will give you chills. This document was created. They look back, and this document was created just before Valerie Mack was kidnapped. Okay. Now, he lists out his problems: DNA, tire marks, blood stains, fingerprints, MO, plastic bag, and cat litter. Witness, trace source of supplies, foot and shoe prints, photos, misleaders, police stop, So he's worried about getting pulled over. He's worried about getting the truck stuck. He's fingerprints and gloves, plastic bags matched to the box, hair and fiber. So these are his problems that he's planning on overcoming. Now, he makes a list of supplies that he's planning on getting. He needs booties. He needs, this is something, lye acid. He needs a police scanner. He needs rope and cord. Just going through all of these things. Okay. Then DS, they believe DS stands for dump site. And the reason being is dump site 1 is Mill Road. Well, Valerie Max, the most of her remains was found on Mill Road. Then he says dump site 2 ? Dumpster site, next time recon dumpster locations. So he's like, I need to find more sites. Okay. Then TRG looks like Target. So Target 1, Megan, ? Maybe. Small is good. Now, this man had a fetish for women that were approximately 5 foot tall and 100 pounds. T-Unk, black. Now, this is something else. Target, I don't know what UNK stands for, but black. Another one of these targets, one of the victims' bodies that were found, she was multiracial. So when you figure out that Valerie Mack and one other person were not only found on Mill Road, but they were also found on Gilgo Beach. So he literally lays all this out, and this is part of the document that he creates before he goes and finds her. Now, here's another next part of the this is the next part of the pre-PEP. He needs to get a vehicle inspection. He needs to engage T1 or Target 1. He's going to recon the dump site 1. He's going to locate a dump site 2. He's going to check the weather report. He's going to recon video cams, recon pick zone for video cams. Then prep, he's going to set up stage holding area, build a table, crossbar, and hard point. So what is that? Is he's building some kind of contraption to torture these women? They believe that he brought the majority of these women back to his basement and torture them and strangle them there. That's what they believe happened. Post-event, he says destroy file, which he did not do. So they were still able to find this. Change tires. To me, that's shows a level of brilliance. Of course, he doesn't want them to track his tire treads, so he's going to get brand new tires after this. Burn gloves, dispose of pics, have story set. So this is a man pre-planning. Everything this man does should probably be classed as first-degree murder, not second. Because first degree and second degree, the difference between it is premeditation. Okay. So this is recon reports. Okay. So the video cams he found on lie route 112 to route 110 was 33. Okay. So he's going on these recon missions to hunt a human being. He was a known hunter, and 4 of these women were found wrapped in burlap sacks. Now, these burlap sacks were what was common for duck hunters. Okay. Now, he critiques himself. So not only is he planning, he goes back and critiques himself afterwards. Hunt too long, seen in area too long. Remember, don't charge your gas. Recon for video cameras and pickup area next time. So he's giving himself reasons. Now, the body prep section, I'm not going to read, but everything in the body prep section almost identically matches with the remains of this poor girl. Okay, almost everything. Then he says of the list of things he's going to dispose afterwards. Then he gives himself a things to remember section. Okay, he wants everything to be perfect. He says, get sleep before hunt. Too tired creates problems. Hit harder. Too many hit to take down. Consider a hit to the face or neck next time. Okay? Use push pins to hang drop cloths from ceiling. Get heavier rope. Okay, so this is to say he's deranged and psychotic killer. I don't know how else you're supposed to describe him. You know,
Yeah, to me, he's right up there with Leonard Lake with the manifesto. Everything was written out.
everything. I mean, and this is just one document out of no telling how many documents. And then we'll find in there that he had a fetish with other serial killers. He had books on other serial killers. And you'll even find, and we'll go into that more when we go to the specific victims. I want to do a video on each victim to give them a voice and give a deep dive into them. But you'll find out with the Shannon Gilbert, I firmly believe that she's tied to this because of a specific serial killer that he had his book and studied. So I still believe that she could be tied to this. Girls, say something about what we just talked about, and then we're going to go into what his defense team is trying to do.
Well, one thing I find fascinating about him, like you said, the fetishes, and he worships pretty much all these serial killers.
Yep.
It's very rare to see someone like that, and he does different things with his victims.
Yep.
Usually they're stuck on the same thing that they have to do. But
Yeah.
he's a rare serial killer.
Yeah. So this is just gives you a little screenshot of some of the different headlines that came across. They called it the blueprint for murder is what they called it in a lot of the different headlines. And that's basically what it is. I don't know what else you need other than him saying the girl's name and saying, okay, here's her name, and I picked her up at this location at this time and date stamp. But I don't know what else they want. I mean, they've got everything else in there. Besides, I mean, to me, that's almost as good as a signed confession right there.
Yeah.
Of course, the defense is going to try to tear that apart and say, well, how do you know he created it? And they're going to have to fight, to prove it. But to me, that is pretty close to a signed
confession.
confession.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, definitely.
What do you think, Miss T?
Why didn't he follow his own to-do list? Destroy all the
Exactly. If he'd actually done what he told himself to do, he wouldn't have all those. I mean, why did he keep 46 cell phones? If he was working 2 or 3 different targets right now, you could see him having 2 or 3 targets. Why does he still have 46 of them? And why does that number close to 50? That's what kills me. I'm sitting here going, does he have 50 out there? Lord, I hope he don't. But
right.
Why does he have 50 hotel cards?
He's a hoarder of all that stuff. Like, he can't get rid of anything that has to do with his crimes. Nothing.
Exactly. So why is there 50? I mean,
couldn't he get a storage shed?
Well, see, they did. They got stuff out of, because he has multiple properties, and the avalanche was on the back
that's right.
of the property. I think his other property was it in Ohio, Tammy?
Yeah.
Say North Carolina.
Or North Carolina, maybe that's it. He had something there. He has property, we know, in I believe in Alaska, and he has property in Las Vegas, I think. But here's the thing: people are trying to say a lot of things, but we're going to go over what we know that his defense tactics are. I kind of mentioned one. They're going to try to, well, how do you know that he made this document, and how do you know that it meant anything? So they're going to have to go all through all this, but one of the defense tactics is this, and this one makes me angry. The alleged these are screenshots from local news sites. This one's it says Channel 4 New York. Alleged Gilgo Beach killer wants 5 separate trials in murders and DNA evidence barred. So he's trying to say this DNA evidence is inaccurate. He's trying to say, he's trying to fight the DNA evidence, but he's also trying to make sure that they split all these cases up, because they're thinking, well, if he's being tried for all the cases at once, it might bias the jury. And here we are again, every week almost. It seems like we get to hear this BS about biasing the jury.
What about the victims?
It's like, you have to know the individual, okay? If you study behavioral psychology, you will see that their behavior gives you a good insight to what's in their head, what's in their mind. Okay. You need to know all of these things so you can make an accurate judgment on, does this guy, is he guilty or is he innocent? Is he capable of this? Is he not capable of this? You need to know all of the information. In every case, they always try to keep something from the jury, and this in the under the guise of getting a fair trial. And I'm sitting here going, the jury needs to know everything. You need to know that this man didn't just, well, there's a cell phone record that connects him to this one body. Okay, well, he might be able to get off on that if that's all there is. But if he has 10 other freaking bodies to his name here,
Exactly.
you're like, oh my gosh. And so what do you guys think? In the comments, I want you guys to comment and tell me, do you think he deserves to have a separate trial for all these things? Because in reality, this is what I always think of things different. Sorry, I'm kind of losing my voice, but I think of things a little bit differently. The taxpayers are paying for the prosecution in this case, okay? So they're paying for that. But you need to realize the taxpayer is also paying for the defense in this case as well. He's got a public defender. So the taxpayer is paying for 2 trials, okay? They're paying for both sides of this. So they're paying for 2 already, okay? So say they award him this, they grant him this, and then he gets to have 4, 5, 7 different trials. So the taxpayer is supposed to pay for 8, 10, 14 trials? At some point, I believe the judge should say, okay, we know this guy's guilty, and this is too big of a burden to the taxpayers.
Yeah. And they have them connected to 7.
They
So
do. Right
one
now,
trial,
it's
I
7.
mean, you got those connections, do it all at once. Bye-bye, see ya.
Well, and yeah. So to me, I'm just like, I understand this is what the defense has to do. The defense has to do everything they can, and they have to do it right, whether they believe he's guilty or not, because if they don't try everything, this guy could win a new trial on appeal and they have to start all over. So at what point do we allow this to continue? At what point do we stop it? I mean, this man has not, he has pled not guilty on all of these. So he's technically, everything's allegedly. But at some point, if he's convicted of one, it looks like he would be convicted of this one and that one and this one and that one. If you did one of the killings and discarded the remains in a burlap sack and duct tape in one location, it goes to reason that you probably did the other 3 that were identical victimology and discarded the same way. So how far do we allow this to go before we say enough is enough? When at some point the evidence is going to get so astronomical that there's going to be a tipping point. And this is my thing. I am waiting to see on those 3 unidentified. Okay. There was something on one of the computers that I heard, and this is something alleged at this point because I can't find anything definite proof that he could have possibly been searching for males at one point. But that is something that I haven't been able to verify. So if that's the case, that could tie him there, but you're going to need more than that, to tie him to that. But the next thing is, if they tie him to Peaches and her toddler, when are we going to say enough is enough with this guy? You know what I mean? When are we going to say enough is enough? If he's already if he's convicted of 7, then we find that he's also a suspect in Peaches. then we automatically know he's a suspect in her child.
Right.
All of those women did not deserve this. They were all, a lot of them were, they were all in an industry that makes them vulnerable. An industry I don't agree with, of course, but it's not something that they're any less human than anybody else. But people for 13 years were treating them like they weren't worth their time. What hurt me the most about these cases is how these women were treated. And you realize that these women were stuck in a industry to survive and to feed their addiction that they couldn't get rid of. They had no help. They had no recovery programs. A lot of them didn't even have family. And some of them weren't even reported missing. That is what hurts me. How can human beings go missing? How can a beautiful 20-something little blonde-headed woman, brown-headed woman, multiracial woman, I don't care. How can a beautiful 20-something-year-old woman go missing? Her remains be found on a beach a decade later. And then they have to search and search and search to find a woman that was never even reported missing. You know why that toddler most likely was there? Was because Peaches probably had to bring the toddler with her because she didn't have any babysitter. We're talking about a population of women who are the most vulnerable in society, or some of the most vulnerable in society. And nobody cared enough to look for them. There's a few like Shannon Gilbert, who her family's still fighting hard to get somebody to pay attention, and there's some of them that do have families, but there were some of them that didn't. There were some of them that didn't have families, and some of them that were never reported. There was one person in the intro, it broke my heart to type it in. Last seen sometime during the summer of 2000. That hurt me to type that, you know? And so that's the reason why I cover these cases, because we need to realize some people aren't blessed enough to have loving families. Some people aren't blessed enough to have loving friends to look out for them. Some people are battling addiction and are so bound that they have to get into this industry to survive. Not one of these people chose, not one of these women chose to be in the path of this monster. Not one of them. They were there out of survival. They needed the money. They didn't have another way. A lot of these women don't have an education, so they can't go get a good job. So some of them have criminal records, so they can't get a good job. And so to me, that's the reason why I wanted to talk about this case. I wanted people to see that these women and man, possibly if he's connected, of course, he's a victim in either way, but all of these people did not deserve to be abused, tortured, killed, and discarded like trash. They also didn't deserve to be overlooked and ignored and forgotten about. And so, this is why I found this case so important. So I'm going to go on to our next topic before we run out of time, which is tag-alongs. But before we do that, Cricket or Tammy, do you have anything you want to add there?
I just want to say that that's exactly the type of people that people like him target, which is
right.
Yeah.
He does. And that was the whole point, because he knew nobody was looking for him, and that would be an easier target.
Exactly. And that's what breaks my heart, because ones that do have family, because they're what they do to survive, their parents don't know where they are, or cut them off. But even if they care, they don't know. They might see the child might be missing for 5 months before a parent realizes something's not right. Better And that was a case I had. 5 months went
Yeah,
by
because they don't
before.
see them regularly anyway, so they don't know.
Yeah. They need to be treated
Yeah,
just
it's
like
because
everybody else.
they don't have a regular home life, so they don't talk to their extended family every day or every week
Yeah.
or every month, just on a random, so they don't know.
Right.
And
And
that's
police
so sad.
don't listen to the families either. When the family says she would not stop calling her children. You know what I mean? We hear that a lot when they have kids.
Yeah.
The mother will not cut off contact. But the
Right.
police don't hear that. They just don't want to deal with it.
Right. So I'm going to bring up some tag-alongs. Now, in this case, you're going to see a person who says that she went on a date with Rex Heuermann. And she claims that he wanted to talk about the Gilgo Beach murders, and he scared her, and that she left the restaurant and did not go home with him like he was wanting her to. And she knew that he was the Gilgo Beach murderer from 2015. Then she goes off into this narrative where she has more information, but she can't share it on these podcasts because she hasn't talked to the police yet. There was some details that he said over dinner that night that she hadn't read anywhere in the paper, so she needs to talk to the police first about those. And then she had to bring that up 5 or 6 times in this I don't know 20-something minute video that she made on these podcasts. And then she goes on CNN, and she goes on here, and she goes on there, and all the time she is saying, well, I have more information, I just can't tell you. I have more information, I just can't tell you. I need to tell the police first. I've got to talk to them before I can tell you. And I'm sitting here going, why didn't you talk to them first? It's not hard to talk to the police. You give them a freaking phone call. You call. You can go by. You don't have to have an appointment set up to find a certain person to talk to. You freaking call them. It's recorded. You're done. When they're ready to interview you, they'll call you back. You might get to talk to someone right away. It's not that freaking hard. You don't go to the media before you go to the police if you are a legitimate witness. Now, I'm not saying she didn't go on a date with this guy. I'm not saying she's lying, but to me, that completely discredited her story when she kept going on and on, like, I have more information. I just can't tell you. I got more information. I just can't tell you. I'm sitting here going, you just want attention. That's all it is. Okay? Now, so I don't necessarily believe her. The next one was this taxi driver. Now, this taxi driver said that she got this phone call at a certain time, and it was a woman who was scared in a hotel room, and she said she had locked herself in the bathroom. She wasn't going to come out until a female cab driver came to pick her up. She was scared. So this female cab driver came, and she put her headlights straight on the door, and this big giant man ran out with his head covered like this, and she just knew it was Rex Heuermann. And the woman came out, this tiny little woman, and she's pretty sure it was one of the victims, and she came out and she took her home. And then there was another time that he supposedly called this taxi driver again, and he didn't realize it's the same one, obviously. And he had another woman at another hotel, and he come out to her and put a gun to her head, or had a gun, and got in and said, you are going to take me and this girl to a drive in the woods. And she said, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not driving anywhere with you. And blah, blah, blah. She talked herself out of it. And he got out of the truck and out of the taxi and got on. We just read about how much this man plans, how much he avoids cameras, how much he avoids other people, how he does everything minutely to avoid detection. Why would he go somewhere and show his face to a taxi driver?
Exactly.
Why would he do this? Now, this taxi driver, of course, never came forward until after his face is on the camera, on the news. Okay, so I don't believe the taxi driver either.
Well, they're all trying to get money.
Experienced this. She probably experienced that, but it wasn't Rex Heuermann. Okay.
Right.
Next thing is one of the ladies come forward and said, this is another one. She said that she was at a swinging party in the early 90s. She went to a swingers club in Manhattan, and she went with her partner, which happened to be a cop. And her and this cop goes to the swinger club in Manhattan, and they just happen to be advertising a swingers party at Huberman's house. So they drive to Huberman's house, and somehow this strange girl is in the back seat, and she doesn't know when he picked her up, but okay. And then they end up at Huberman's house, and that strange girl decides to stay, and they end up leaving, and then she sees her run back out the house half naked, and she asks her partner if why are we leaving her, and he's like, no worries, it's just a game and it's gonna be fine. And then she didn't think nothing else about it until 26 years later when she saw that lady's face on the news.
And I bet nobody knows the name of the police officer that was at the swinging party.
She did give the police officer's name, but here's the thing. Again, all of these are coming forward to the news, to the media, and they're all being dug up by one specific attorney. Now, this attorney is not a part of the investigation. He is outside the investigation. He is an attorney for Shannan Gilbert. And at this point, Shannan Gilbert is not included in this investigation, okay? Because they still have her class as an accident, and they haven't found anything to connect her to Rex Heuermann. So this family attorney, which is somewhat of a nutcase, he literally has been grasping at straws, trying to find ways to connect her to this case. Okay. Now the family does that out of grief. He's supposed to be a professional. Okay. He also gave a ludicrous, horrendous interview to the local media. He did a press conference, and he literally says that the daughter of Rex Heuermann, who's 20 something now, who would have been
very young,
5 or 6, 2 at maybe 2 at one point and 5 at another. Okay. He said that he found on an old closed TikTok that she was into bestiality and cannibalism and all these horrible things. And I'm sitting here going, it looked like she may have joined a group on TikTok and Facebook that were into some of those things. But there's no proof that she actually participated in any of those things. And then we know for a fact there were dozens, potentially hundreds of fake accounts that Rex Heuermann created to target women 20-ish. You can't tell me that he didn't possibly use his own daughter's profile picture to target another woman who's into odd behaviors.
Yeah, that's more believable than his actual daughter doing it.
But here's the thing, even if she did, there's no evidence that she did.
Exactly.
And the so-called attorney made this humongous press release, just destroyed that girl. And I hope he's disbarred for it. I really do. And I hate to say this, and I hope Shannan Gilbert's family is watching this. I hope you watch this. I don't know if I have a big enough channel that you're going to see my stuff or not. But if you're watching this, fire that man and get you a real attorney, because that man is going to hinder the investigation. He's not going to help it. And eventually he's going to hinder it to a point where he could destroy evidence that could solve your daughter's case, your sister's case, your loved one's case. I hope you fire that man, because absolutely not professional whatsoever. He starts bringing in witchcraft and demonology and all of these things. He brings up pictures and blows up big posters of pictures and says that she was drawing these. We had no evidence that she drew anything. And then he's trying to label it to some satanic rituals. And he literally calls...
But he's harming her case so bad.
Well, he's calling the daughter of Rex Heuermann monsters and all these horrible things. And I'm sitting here going, well, we know for a good majority of these cases so far, the police have found that Asa, his wife, and their 2 children were in another freaking country. So, if this is the thing, if you join someone's Facebook group, you have no control over what they post. Now, if that's all they post, I hope you get out of it. But he didn't say that these were groups all about bestiality and all these things and cannibalism and all this. He said that she was a part of these things. And I'm sitting here going, if there was one post in that group of those things, she may have not even seen the post.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, you don't see every post that's posted in every group that you're in, you know. But he's finding all these things, and instead of going to the police, again, he's doing what the escort did, and he's, as a professional, this blows my mind. He's going to the media before he goes to the police. I don't think that man should have a right to practice law in this country anymore.
No.
And that's just my professional.
And all that
I'm not
does,
trying to
all that does is harm the case, because he's out there telling
no, because I'm sitting here
falsities.
going, I'm trying not to slander a man. Well, I'm even trying to be sensitive and not slander a man who spent this entire press release slandering a young woman without any hard evidence. And he called her monster, he called her cannibal, he called her and her mother and her brother, all of these things. And I hope they sue the crap out of that guy.
Yeah.
I really do. But here's the thing. For the family of Shannon Gilbert, I really implore you, get a different attorney, because he's causing you more trouble than it's worth. And he's going to end up destroying the case to where it won't be solvable. I've seen so many cases that the evidence gets tainted, this gets happened. Everyone knows what happened, but they can't take it to court because it was destroyed by someone like that. So I implore you, if you are watching, get a different attorney, please. All right. Girls, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think covered it all.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep following this case, and
Yes.
I'll let you know. I'll give you updates as we see it. I appreciate you guys signing on. I hope you guys have a good evening. I will keep you updated as I find out something new. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.